All right. Hey, everyone. I am Vanessa with the Historical Society of Frankfurt, starting our fall lecture season. So hooray, we're back. We are going to be doing everything live streaming this round, and we're going to start with another Papers Read. The Papers Read I'm going to read is entitled Dark Run University. It was written by Frank T. Wilson in October of 1951, some 50 to 60 years after the time recalled in the piece, which is in the 1890s. It was presented to the Historical Society sometime after that, and possibly as late as 1956, since there was a newspaper clipping attached to the original document that speaks of the topic via correspondence from Toronto, Canada. This is in some way a sequel to my presentation in June, in which the paper I read mentioned Dark Run University, stating that it ain't any college, just where the gang spends a lot of time and has plenty of fun. You can find a video of that lecture on our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook page, and it's called Swim in Holes I Know. I feel this is a particularly thoughtful piece with some beautiful imagery in it, so I will read it through entirely and then show you images and explain locations afterwards. I also will be able to see comments from both Facebook and YouTube, so please don't hesitate to say hi, ask any questions. If you ask any questions, I may not know them, but I can definitely refer them to my colleagues here at the Historical Society, and we can get a nice comment section going, and people can get their questions answered, hopefully. All right. So, Dark Run University in the 1890s. During the last decade of the 19th century, the Wister family owned the land northward from Leaper Street on both sides of Oxford Pike, which extended from the center of Frankfurt to the neighboring town of Fox Chase, with many twists and turns in its course, and which was tree-lined in various places. It was called a pike inasmuch as it was a dirt road with small stones spread over the surface, to be ground into dirt by the constant use of iron-tired vehicles traveling on its surface. From the Leaper Street intersection up to the Wister Gateway on the west side of the pike, there were banks on each side, several feet higher than the roadway, while further along the adjoining land and road were on an even level. The eastern boundary of the Wister land on the east side of the pike was the rear fences of the properties facing on Penn Street, extending from Oxford Pike to present Wakeling Street. Then Page's lot, north of that to about present Dyer Street, was the property line, with the Peters property, including the quarry, extending further to Dark Run. Harrison Street ended at Penn Street. There were no other cross streets on the west side of Main Street, north of Harrison, until Bustleton Pike was reached and Leaper Street ended at Oxford Pike. The ground of this Wister tract, for some distance from Leaper Street, was high and level. Then it sloped to the north to the bed of a small stream, originating on the west side of the pike and flowing under a small stone bridge to Dark Run. This ground also sloped to the northeast, down a long grade to the bed of Dark Run. Dark Run had its source in the general area of Williams Grove and Busby's Thicket, which would now be the southern end of the Naval Aviation Depot, facing on Oxford Avenue. It flowed in an easterly direction under Oxford Pike at about present Devereux Street, through the Hart and Wilkie Farms, under Hartshorn Lane, present Castor Avenue, and turned south through Press's Farm and under Dark Run Lane, present Cheltenham Avenue. It continued on approximately on the line of present-day Saul Street to the line of present Pratt Street, where it abruptly turned to the left and flowed under a single arched stone bridge at Main Street to empty into a little Tacony Creek further on. A mill race on the east side of the creek extended from Press's Dam, north of Dark Run Lane, to a point just west of Main Street, where the racewater again flowed into the creek. This race was used by the Dark Run Mills, which were along the creek approximately midway between present Cheltenham Avenue and Pratt Street. The mill was utilized by different owners for various purposes, the last being a dye house, and was destroyed by fire during 1886. The ruins remained for a number of years afterwards. A lane from Bustleton Pike led to the mill and the several tenant houses on the east side of the race, which had a wooden bridge over it. A large fallen tree at the northern end of the woods served as a bridge over the creek. The Wister property adjoined the mill land and extended westward in a long arc to Oxford Pike and included a farmhouse near the western end. Elbow Lane, a dirt road, extended from Oxford Pike north of the Wister land to Dark Run Lane, with a right-angle turn in its course, from which it derived its name. 4th of July fireworks celebrations were held on the level stretch of the Wister property at the Pike and Leeper Street location. This site was later home of the first Frankford Athletic Association, organized in 1899, and which produced first-class baseball and football teams for over a dozen years. Youngsters sledded in the wintertime on the sloping hill to the north and northeast. Between the mill buildings and Dark Run Lane was an open field, while to the west of the mill, extending from the creek, was a grove of old trees known as Smith's Woods. This was not a very large woods, so only a few small picnics were held there occasionally during summertime. This particular wooded area saw considerable activity, however, and was known many years as the site of Dark Run University. The approaches were across Page's Lot from Main Street, where the North End baseball team played, or across the Wister Field from Oxford Pike. You descended the long gradual slope, which served as a campus, and reached the portals of the institution, where a stately old maple tree, lifting its huge branches skyward, like the tower of a college chapel, guarded the entrance. Close by was a fine spring, the water of which emptied into the little stream from across Oxford Pike and onto Dark Run, a short distance to the right. There were no college buildings other than the ruins of the old mill. The leafy paths through the woods were the corridors, and the classrooms were the bared spots beneath the overhanging boughs of majestic old trees. The floors were carpeted with grass, moss, and in autumn times with brightly hued fallen leaves, which rustled as one walked among them. The walls and ceilings were vistas through boughs of trees and patches of blue sky. There was no chapel organ, but the countless frogs in the abandoned mill race across the creek furnished daily music, the young ones supplying the tenor voices, and the old ones the deep basses. There were no tuition charges, no printed curricula, no class books, and no homework required. There was no official registration, although all students were known. All who attended sessions not only learned, but contributed in lore and knowledge of some kind, whether valuable or not. There were lectures on topics of the day, discourses on various subjects, and regular courses in games, pinochle and mumbly peg particularly. The athletic department was located along the creek bank and included in its studies jumping contests, quoit pitching, and swinging across the creek. The school paraphernalia and equipment consisted of a stout rope suspended from a tree limb overhanging the creek, a set of quoits, and a couple of pinochle decks. Peter's quarry nearby served as the swimming pool, and there were many nature studies, often spontaneous, during the various semesters. There was a substantial group of students, substantial at least as to numbers. The rating otherwise might have depended upon opinion. Dark Run was prior to the adaptation of the higher coeducational theory, so the students were all males. There being no desks to cut initials on, these were carved upon the trunks of trees, beech trees with their smooth bark having preference over oaks and poplars. Contrary to most halls of study, students were actually fond of staying there late in the afternoons, and the attendance on Saturdays was excellent. Summer school was particularly well attended. The student body, like those of other universities, changed from time to time. And as there was never any official roster, it is less complicated to simply forgo mentioning any of the many enrolled during the activity years of operation. Men of various walks of life would be numbered among the alumni. There was a spread in years of those who attended the same semesters, but the affluence and environment of individuals received little recognition by the general student group and made no difference in the spirit of the scholars. There were no diplomas or degrees bestowed. Nevertheless, the alma mater, and there were many incidents concerning pupils during the existence of the university. One summer afternoon, one of the boys came along, all dressed up. The rope swinging session was being held, and he took his turn, as a matter of course. Whether he tried to swing twice across the creek or got off to a poor start is difficult to determine, but he ended up hanging stationary over the water. He hung there for a few minutes, then dropped into the creek. There was nothing else to do. The water was about knee-deep or a little more. This was significant of the regular routine, and that particular incident came under the logic teaching, demonstrating the unreasonableness of being dressed up. Dark Run University was one of those old-time village traditions which caught and held popular appeal. Its performances over a span of years of existence have been told at various times and places. Some of the tales, no doubt, were true, and some exaggerated or imaginary. It may have been condemned by some worthy townfolks, just as it was acclaimed by those who participated in its activities. It may have been only a passing whim in the course of time, but today special stress is laid upon personal relations and personality as necessary to efficiency and better standards. Possibly the sportsmanship, the camaraderie, the ability to cooperate that any of us acquired and used effectually in later life might have had its beginning or received special impetus in the homely, unorthodox procedures of Dark Run University, which was typical example of old-time Frankford community spirit. It is at least well remembered by any who knew it intimately. October 1951, Frank T. Wilson. So, let's check out some comments here before I... Hi, Jerry. All right, let's get to some images here, and then people can maybe talk about those a little bit. So the first images I have are of maps, and I will have to adjust my position here. This one is, this is complicated. Okay, so this image is the wonderful image that Mr. Wilson drew for us and was accompanied with the papers read. I've highlighted Oxford Pike in red, Leaper Street in orange, Penn Street in yellow, and Frankford Avenue, which he referred to as Main Street in green. The dark blue at the top is Dark Run, or right now it's called Cheltenham Avenue. And then all the way over there at the left, I don't know if it's my left or your left, in the purple is 50 Acre Lane and Hartshore Lane, which were both mentioned in the paper as well. The pink kind of outline in the center there is Smith's Woods, which is where Dark Run University supposedly was held. And you'll be able to see how close his drawing was to an actual atlas image here. So the atlas image I picked is from the 1895, I think, Bromley Atlas of the 23rd Ward. And again, I highlighted all of the same streets with their same colors. So Oxford in red, Leaper orange, Penn in yellow, and Frankford Avenue in green. I did highlight Dark Run Creek in aqua. I believe I forgot to mention that during the first image too, so you can see where it is. And then purple over there in the Hartshorn Lane. So he was pretty close with where he was locating Smith's Woods, according to this map at least. This map doesn't show Smith's Woods, but he was pretty close in how he laid everything out in his map, so very close to the actual way things were. And just to give you an idea of something that has Smith's name on it, and is another map. This one's from 1865. I also found this on philogeohistory.org, highlighted everything with the same respective colors. And you can see the name Smith highlighted in pink, not far from the little pink arc where Mr. Wilson was telling us that Smith's Woods would be. So if we can imagine, the Smith homestead was where that name was, and then he possibly owned some property behind it and left some of it to be wooded. So now that we've got some location stuff down, let's take a look at some pictures. And this is Smith's homestead. So we're thinking that behind this house, somewhere on his property, maybe not behind, were these woods that the gang hung out in and participated in Dark Run University. I'm going to take another look at comments here. Thanks to everybody who's been joining us. It's really lovely to see you all talking amongst yourselves here. Next picture. We've got more property here. This one's maybe a little smaller on your screen. The Wister Mansion is the image on the bottom here. Really beautiful. And then also is the Wister Country Club. That's what the top one is. I can't read it. It's too small on my screen. But it's the Wister Country Club. And this, these buildings were approximately where current-day Frankford High School is. And this is a nice larger image. This is Peters's quarry. So imagine that being full of water. Looks like some good swimming. I do want to mention that in my presentation in June, I said that Peter's quarry was where current Denai Playground was, and there was definitely a quarry there. However, it was not Peters's quarry. Let's see. Brian Harris asked if we know who the Smiths were. I don't, but we may have some more information on them, and we can continue the conversation on Facebook at some point. All right, next image here. Also going to take up more of the screen. Well, let's do the other one first. This is Dark Run Mill Race. So you can see the little path of water running between the raised road and the trees. And that water would have gone towards the mill and powered the systems at the mill. And last one here. This is a really beautiful image of Dark Run Mill. You can see the mill through the trees at the end of the water there. Oh wait, I do have one more. This one was the cover for the Facebook post, I think. This is a really beautiful image. I enjoy this one a lot. The lighting's gorgeous. It is not of Dark Run, but it is of Tacony Creek, which did intersect with Dark Run, or rather Little Tacony Creek did. So very close to each other, and it's close to Dark Run Mills, so definitely the same area. And that is all I have for you this evening. Keep the conversation going. Post any questions that you have. We'll be checking Facebook. We'll check YouTube as well. And I hope everybody enjoyed seeing it on YouTube. I'm glad we got to broadcast to there as well, so we could reach more people. This will be available to watch later on as well, so you can share. So stay tuned for the rest of our fall programming. We don't have exact lectures lined up. We've got a couple ideas floating around. We're going to be doing more live streaming. And of course, if you have any ideas of stuff that you'd like to hear about, you can always shoot us a line and see if we've got any information about it. We're happy to oblige. So with that, I will leave you to your evening. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.